Welcome back, everybody. Today, it is going to be, honestly, really damn interesting. It is the Activision Blizzard quarterly earnings report. And I know, a quarterly earnings report, that kind of seems boring, but man, this one has been more fiery than ever, and we can get into some of the nice nitty-gritty details. I mean, Blizzard MAUs, they're down from 45 million to 27 million. Which seems really bad to have happen in one quarter, but I think there's also a fairly obvious reason why. Let's get into things, okay. Now, the obvious big news here is the large torpedo that the United Kingdom threw, or I suppose launched, into the side of their acquisition deal with Microsoft. Very fiery social media statements, but on their financial report, which they actually rolled out a day, a day early, clearly needing to respond to this. They said they still think the deal is good for competition, that will bring the Activision Blizzard content to more gamers and be, just great benefits to consumers in the UK and globally. Now, obviously, this is not over. There will be appeals. All of that stuff will be happening. But let's just see how the market is pricing this news. Now, there's often a phrase, buy the rumor, sell the news, which is kind of interesting. In this case, it's one of those ones where I think people genuinely expected maybe some small behavioral amendments to eventually be what the CMA would settle for, but no, quite evidently not. Now, they were going to be acquired for $95. That was the share price, and the market was actually pricing their stock at 85. Now, if you held one unit of stock, when it goes through, you'll get that stock price. So what the market is pricing here, in addition to obviously your fundamental beliefs about the business, it is as well the likelihood of this deal making it through. So we do see that confidence in the deal overall going through falling down. You can look up the topic of merger arbitrage if you happen to be interested in that. But we already talked about this stuff, so let's just talk about company-wide what is going on. So their revenue is up. Yes, look at that. $2,383 million, which is a 34% increase up. Their net bookings up $1.86 billion from $1.48 billion in the first quarter of 2022. So that's up 25%. They're probably thrilled about that. In-game net bookings up 22%, but a 1% decrease in monthly active users. Now, let's actually go into the highlights, right? So what's been going on across all their games? Well, they highlighted Call of Duty, Candy Crush, Warcraft, Overwatch, and Diablo. And right now for them, mobile is giving them double-digit growth in net bookings. So that just means Diablo Immortal, we all love it. COD Mobile and Candy Crush, they are doing super well. They overall said that we just had a robust pipeline, good live games, operational discipline, and in terms of potential issues, they specifically called out headwinds for our professional esports business model, which is kind of interesting. The OWL's been a laughing stock for a long, long time, hasn't it? But let's actually get into the specifics. And I'll kick it off with Activision here, where their segment revenue up 28% to $580 million. Now, of course, that's explained by a particularly big Call of Duty this year versus the Call of Duty that happened last year, where their COD growth actually tripled their operating income last year, which is pretty crazy, right? Basically, premium game sales higher, but overall that was related to Vanguard, which was a big stinker as far as COD goes. Now, they do something here that I think the players will not agree with, because they say they're delivering substantial post-launch content for both the premium COD and Warzone 2.0. Well, that is something that I think a lot of players, or at least the public consciousness online, I'd say, would disagree with. But they say that this stuff has driven up engagement, and they still are claiming a full premium COD this year and a COD Warzone Mobile before the end of the year. And also, they acknowledge that Crash Team Rumble exists. So that's basically that. As for Blizzard then, well, man, their segment revenue is up. It sure is. Up 62% year over year. I mean, that is a night and day difference right? Just what a year makes. A year where Blizzard is actually shipping goddamn content finally. So that's basically because of growth in WoW, Overwatch, and Diablo. They say their operating income is broadly stable year over year, and they're attributing that to the higher development costs and marketing costs, partially driven by, launching in, Diablo, of course. They're also calling out both the Overwatch and WoW teams for their ability to deliver in-game content and live ops. And look, I gotta say, see, as a WoW player, the content cadence has been absolutely crazy. It is like right now, it could even be some of the fastest that you could have seen in an MMO. Like it is, and it would have to be. There's like over 750 people working in that game now, but they absolutely are delivering. They actually say that because this team is delivering more content, faster, that their retention in the West is higher than the equivalent stage of recent modern expansions. What does that mean? Recent modern expansions. For a lot of people, the modern era of WoW starts with Legion, so they could mean Legion to now. They could mean BFA to now. I think BFA and Shadowlands, they definitely do mean when they say modern expansions, because they did say plural. It would not be surprising if Dragonflight was retaining people better than the last two expansions, because unlike them, Dragonflight's actually really good. Shadowlands and BFA were a bit pants. Now, of course, they said the West, because while Western retention may be great, their World of Warcraft China's player retention was none. They're all gone, because obviously the game shut down in China. Now, I did see a tweet from Josh Allen, who was a community manager for World of Warcraft for years and years and years and years. Doesn't work at the company anymore, but he did respond to a tweet just saying, like, wow, China is huge. That's where you're seeing this MAU drop from. Could be one of those things where whatever the terms of that deal were, WoW was perhaps there in China, but perhaps the revenue per user was quite minuscule as compared to other regions. Of course, another thing could be Overwatch 2, right? Like, free-to-play games, they have a humongous initial rise because the cost of entry is nothing. But then obviously they drop off, right? You actually see, well, who decides they want to main Overwatch as a game? And they say that engagement has been moderated compared to the launch, but that Season 3 was more successful in terms of retention and consistent player investment, that means money, than Season 2. And they say that hours played were approximately twice the level seen prior to the free-to-play release. And I know they're saying that as a positive. And doubling from when you were is good, yeah. But they were not at a good baseline, right? So, I don't know. I have a feeling that the weak Season 1 and 2 for Overwatch 2 really did sting them. Yeah, I don't know. I think that one's actually kind of rough. Diablo Immortal then, basically holding pattern. There is growth through stable trends across engagement, retention, and player investment. Moving on, because who cares about that? ArcLight Rumble. It's still undergoing regional testing. It has been for over a year. Where is ArcLight Rumble? I don't know. You would maybe worry that it's not converting well in its soft launch tests. Hard to say. As for Diablo 4, though, that's the next big thing for them. They said they had very high engagement and positive feedback from the beta and strong pre-sales. Yeah, like you heard me and Matt talk about it, I don't know, weeks ago, whenever that happened, it slapped pretty hard from at least the experience that we could get out of something like that. And given that it is designed to be a live service platform, yeah, I guess expect that to be like another pillar of Blizzard stuff. Now then, King. Here's the deal with King, right? It's boring. But also, Microsoft say that King's one of the things they really wanted from the acquisition, and King can be a bit depressing when you look at the numbers. But there is also a more interesting angle here, something I think you should be thinking about. In June 2022, they acquired Paltarion, right? Now, they're a company who are developing no-code machine learning platforms that allow users to build deep learning models in the cloud at scale. And now they're saying this, that Paltarion's technology is helping King accelerate the production and testing of live operations to offer more relevant game content to players, with the acquisition set to deliver a meaningful financial benefit in its first full year. And that basically means that they're using AI models to present microtransaction opportunities and stuff like that towards players. So it's one of those things, I'm going to assume you've played around with ChatGPT. Now, if you've used GPT-4, right, the GPT-4 model, it is spookily good at getting what you want. Like, really, really good. It's just kind of incredible, right? And clearly through that model, there's quite a lot of like, a user that model can understand, especially if you just say, all right, AI model, I want you to act as this. And then you can find, that this can be extremely powerful and useful. Now, imagine that technology applied, but instead of, you entering a prompt about something you wanted to help you with, what is being entered is somebody's playing data. And, through the power of their model, they're then able to predict, based on somebody's play patterns and spending patterns, the optimal path moving forward. That is pretty damn massive. Recently, and I think it's a really good video. I know it was a bit sort of nerdy topic, so not many people tuned into it, but I was talking about Zynga, right? And how Zynga was like a humongous part of what Take-Two were actually like pulling in terms of money. And one of the things that Zynga was really good with was data science. I believe it was Mark Pincus always talked about how they invested in data scientists like humongously at Zynga. And it's one of the things that helped them be really strong in that market. Now, though, the superpower of like the data scientists who are sitting there running their models, well, now actually a large AI model can probably kind of replace that. So this is extremely powerful and absolutely something that they will want to make use of across the company. Now, to look at the monthly active users, then it did drop compared to last quarter, but that does make sense because then both Activision and Blizzard were launching big games. Some of them were free to play. Having a bit of a drop there does obviously make sense. And overall there, you just see Blizzard, they're back down to 27 million MAUs. That is where they were back the quarter ending the 30th of June, 2022, but 5 million up year over year. Overall then, I think we're seeing like COD is remaining stable. It's maybe not getting as many new players, but like it's at a very high level of stability. Obviously, there's a lot of frustrations that are being pent up within the Call of Duty community, though. And of course, the people who are seeing fluctuations, if you look through like King, 250, 243, but King, they're just bouncing up and down around there. With Activision, they're pretty much always a stone's throw of 100, with a particularly high, of course, the quarter ending with Modern Warfare 2's launch. But Blizzard, it's like 22, 45, 27. It's all over the place. Look at this stuff. All over the place after, admittedly, a big old saunter downhill that lasted for quite a lot of time. And you should remember that the MAU figures for Q3 of 2022 do not include the launch of Overwatch 2. So Overwatch 2 is what helped it spike up to the 45. So it's like you don't have the launch of Overwatch 2 and WoW China's been turned off. It seems kind of reasonable to me. So that's the MAUs. Next, platforms, then segment revenue, because you always kind of want to know who's making the most money, Activision, Blizzard, or King? Maybe the answer will be depressing. No, platforms then. Console, PC, mobile, and ancillary. And what we basically see is in terms of the net revenue, mobile's up 18%, PC is up 74%, and that's because of increased investment and monetization across WoW, Overwatch, and Call of Duty. So that's kind of interesting as far as I see it. What I really like to see, though, is the segment revenue, and this is where it's fun. So Activision at 453 million, which is pretty damn big. Blizzard, right? When we go to the net revenue, 274. King, 682. And it's not just revenue, though, right? It's also income. Income matters. Doesn't matter if you get all the revenue, but your expenses are humongous. And that's where it's brutal, because the income of King is more than double the combined total of Activision and Blizzard. So if you are thinking, oh geez, why is everyone moving into Candy Crush? It's because look what Candy Crush does. It is what it is. Now look, these are still very large amounts of money. And that operating income does look like this for Blizzard. But remember, on the front of Blizzard there, you're going to be getting Diablo soon. And, their expenses will have increased because of, the staffing up and getting ready for that. Now, when you look at regions, things are actually kind of interesting. Revenue's up in all regions by about 35%. That is good for them. It shows stability. It shows like that the audience is just sticking around with what they're doing. There's no real change in the share across the regions. But then what's interesting is there's no change in the share of regions by revenue, even though WoW got turned off in China. So this is going to be like, your Korea, Taiwan, other places, of course. So that really, man, that is actually quite interesting. Maybe that speaks to the deal not being particularly amazing for Blizzard. Or sorry, for Activision Blizzard. Right? Like if it doesn't seem to have that much of a humongous effect. It's food for thought. Maybe the revenue just looks like this because of the structure of the deal. I don't really know the specifics there. I don't think that many people do. But overall, this is like a pretty good earnings report. And I think that is why whenever that bad news happened about the CMA, I think that's why they pulled this ahead a day earlier. Like they obviously wanted to get this out. It's just a better time for the market because it's good, right? These are good numbers. They are doing well. And then you have to, consider turning on Diablo 4. I think Diablo 4 is going to be really big. And it could be really big in that way of going past the super hardcore audience of that genre and going quite a lot more broad. I think you really notice that when you actually pick it up and try to play it in those open betas that they did. So pretty interesting situation. Yeah. As always, I think it's just Blizzard just feels like it's nice. It's a bit better diversified than it used to be. Some of its core products like WoW are in a really, really good state. For Activision, though, it's just the same thing as always. They cannot screw Call of Duty. If they screw Call of Duty, they are in big trouble. And it does seem that having a premium release this year has perhaps robbed attention from the ongoing experience. Maybe they're not being punished for that to a massive degree by the numbers. But it's just hard to tell. I mean, hey, Vanguard happened. How long can they keep this going? I guess that's the lingering question that I have. As much as it's good that like it's not Crash Bash, but whatever it is, the new Crash game is coming. As good as that is, what I was excited about in the past was seeing the likes of Sekiro. And you're like, oh, okay, they might actually use their large war chest to publish more games. But no, rather than that like nice big diversification, they've just went more all in on Call of Duty. I suppose if I was like thinking, all investor-y, I'd really be liking to see third-party publishing from them, right? More angles to their business, so they're not just this humongously cyclical Call of Duty machine. Call of Duty does make a lot of money, doesn't it? Okay, that's it. That's the breakdown. Now you basically know what's going on with Activision Blizzard. So let me know what you think. Of course, if you would like to check out another pretty damn interesting video, then you can click the floating box in and round my head, and I'll see you next time.